Hello, guys. Could we settle down, please? People at the back, if you don't have space, you can come here and sit. There is a space here. Okay. We have gathered here on the occasion of World Water Day, today being 22nd March. We have a person here who's been working with water. Avinash Kaur is a program manager with the Transforming and What Project is. She has been volunteering with Pani Samiti Water Rights Peace Campaign to support policy advocacy around water access to the informal settlements for the past 5 years. She is an architect and urban designer. She has been involved in research and advocacy on issues related to WASH and climate change adaptation processes as well. Title of today's talk would be Towards the Water Equity, Navigating the Policy Advocacy Journey with Mumbai's Right to Water campaign, Pani Samiti. The talk aims to touch upon the paradox of water distribution in the city. It would draw upon policy advocacy for water equity through the years under the Mumbai's Right to Water campaign, Pani Samiti. Over to you.
Hi, good morning to everyone. As informed, I've been working with water and Pani Samiti for the past 5 years. But if you see, my understanding of water when I was an architect was this assumption that I would design a building and the local authorities would give water. And the only part I have to ensure is that they connect this water to my building. Okay, the building services taught me that I have to just plan for how much water will be required for that particular building, for that particular house, and also maybe give specifications to what kind of pipe, what dimensions of pipe would be required, and things like that. But fast forward to when I was doing my master's, there was this city planner who asked me, will you give water to someone who is staying 20 meters from the existing administrative boundary of your particular city you are in? And I was like, why would I not? Because water is so essential. Why would I use boundaries as a mechanism to stop giving water and things like that? But in that process, I started realizing that water was always and is always would be thought in terms of boundaries as well. So I would just give an example to talk about those boundaries as well. So I've been also trying to understand. So I belong to my background is from Punjab, and the state itself is like 5 rivers which combine, and the land around that was called 5 rivers. So basically, and but if you see, those 5 rivers also go to Pakistan, and Punjab is also in Pakistan. And it also kind of, if you see, in 2022, like last year, there was this very huge floods which had happened, almost consuming 10 to 12% of the land in Pakistan due to floods. And it was all because Himalayan Mount Everest from Nepal and India, waters from there was coming and then flowing into Pakistan and causing floods. So if you see, the flood or water doesn't see those boundaries. It's us who have made those boundaries, and we who are thinking about we need negotiations for water, and that's with all. So that's with states in India as well. It's with countries, it's with nations, and everyone. But if you see, that has also translated into our city planning and city development and water distribution within the city itself. Because if you see, when I started with Pani and Samiti, I joined as they asked me to be like a licensed plumber. And at the point, I thought that licensed plumber would mean me designing what sizing of the pipe would be required for for the house in the slum. And that was also pretty naive of me, because after that, when I started learning actually about the campaign, actually about understanding how water distribution in the city was working, it made me realize that I don't know, my four signatures on a file of an application of a slum makes it so important for them that they save upon. So it's like a pro bono thing which I did. So license number has been existing in the water policy of BMC for the past many years. From the time they have been giving this water distribution in the city, they've been planning and they require these license number to do all kinds of paperwork, putting application, and then also deciding what sizing would be required, and then make basically fully implementing the water distribution from whatever the city gives to the particular site. Okay. And I never even knew that this kind of person existed. And if you see, in terms of the informal settlement, so Pani Samiti is a right-based campaign who has been working with water rights for basically informal settlements. They say that water for conservation, protection, and equitable distribution for all, including animals as well. So, in this background, when I started understanding how this license number thing came into being and how this is being translated, I realized that at a point that the license number would not be. So even the campaign, we have been advocating that license number as a thing is not required for informal settlements as well, because the application processing doesn't that way require any kind of planning of which pipe, how much diameter of the pipe, and things like that. And so this also is in the background of how water in the city has been distributed. So there was a point in the city's water distribution thing where they also thought about privatizing water in itself. So privatization of water, so with the idea that it would be more efficiently done, it would be more conservation wise. Also, it will be, and all of this was happening starting 1999. And if you see, by the time organizations had also started to realize that water, if privatized, would not be equitably, inclusively provided to most of these informal settlements which required. Because informal settlements in themselves have this thing where some would get water, some would not get water based on the time in which they have come. So during that time, before 2014, the policy said before 1995, the slum existed, you would get water. If not, you would not get water. So when we say water is a resource, it is scarce but required by all. In this background, this doesn't fit the things which we are expecting to give water to all. Okay, and from this, so 2009, people fought to stop this privatization, and then after that, 2014, the new PIL was filed by Pani and Samiti to understand, to say that water is for all and should be given for free. And eventually, a lot of fight, after a lot of fight, the water was finally given. But if you see the water, the policy was changed. So it was decided the policy will be changed. So, but in that also, the policy said before 2000, if your slum is there, we would give water. After 2000, we would think if we would give water or not. And the fight totally push that you give water on the grounds of humanitarian things, so that water is given to each and every individual who comes into the city, who lives into the city, and has been staying for so long in the city. So if you see the all of this falls in the background of water would be legal or illegal, if people are legal and illegal, and based on that they decided to give water. But to stop all of that, the humanitarian grounds thing was a very important, if you say, important step in the whole juncture. But water that way, only the policy, the Water for All policy in 2017 eventually, which was given, because 2014 the verdict came, but 2014 to 16. But after that as well, they did not provide water, or also started applying this policy. So the Samiti had to do like a whole Pani Abhiyan kind of a thing, where different people from all communities brought water whichever they were drinking. So it was water from all drains, nalas, and whatever water they could get, to push that water to the government authorities and saying, "Okay, please drink this water, because you are not giving us water. This is what we are drinking." So if you realize in this whole background, water, although being essential, can be used as a mechanism. It's like boundaries. These are also the kind of controls that water that organizations or government authorities can use to stop giving it to all. Uh, so this, in all this background, so I came very late into this whole thing. It was 2019 when I started joining. I joined Pani Samiti, and in that I started with understanding actually the process of how water applications have been filed. Because I knew this verdict came, I knew this policy is now water. So the policy that time was also called Water for All. And the Water for All policy said we can give water on humanitarian grounds to all, but then still decide, saying that people living on railway land can't be given water, people living in port areas can't be given water, people living in other lands which are not BMC can't be given water. So, how did then this policy become water for all? It was absolutely not. The policy that time also said that water can be uh, given if the person has an identity card and also a address. So both these different documents, which was very difficult for informal settlements to that time gather. Even if they had these documents, the kind of land on which they were living was contested, and it had to go through. So each of the application went through this big procedure of being denied at different kinds of a thing. So it could be denied if the documents are not proper. It could be denied if people are not forming 5 to 15 households. So the policy still says, so the policy from 1990s still says that 5 to 15 people together need to apply for water. By people, I mean households. So if these households themselves also had a lot of issues which needed to be negotiated, so to get water, they had to make this null committees and things like that. The null committee as a what do you say, a small governance mechanism in itself, that the null committee formation then has to be then has to apply for that water, and in that those 5 to 15, how many the number of households decide to come together would be given water. And so if you see the process, my role has also been to see how much or what time it takes for one particular application to be how much time one application would take. And this, so Pani Samiti has been working in 17 different wards, and 17 different wards, communities, and representatives of the communities has been working to apply these applications and follow up these applications. And when I started learning about each of these procedures of these 17 different wards, I realized the file actually goes to 32 to 35 different uh, bureaucrats. So there would be junior engineer, sub engineer, even the assistant engineer. If the file is not from BMC land, then it goes also to the different other state departments to get approvals, to get NOCs, so that water can be got into. So at each stage, you had to be continuously following up and trying to understand what is this hurdle you're trying to solve. So we have also been looking at. So it was also realized that it is not enough to just take the policy and fight. It is also important that you all understand the standard operating procedures which were there, the water charges which were there, the water bylaws which were there, and all this together, you needed to strategize your fight in such a manner that what things would go into the policy, what things would go into the bylaws, what things would go into the standard operating procedure, and in each of these, and what kind of changes need to be brought. So just getting water for all policy was not enough. And when I did this procedural thing and realized that 35 times the file moves, the standard operating procedure itself said that the water should be given once the application is filed in 15 days. But with even that was not what the authorities could do. It took almost 6 months to a year sometimes for an application to be completed, and we are still pushing to see if those 32 number of places in which the file goes, can those be avoided, can those be combined, can those be sorted, and in what purposes can those be sorted. Is it, if you see in this in 2023, if we're still saying that 5 households will get water together, what does it say about our planning this thing? Because I agree that there is no space for water lines to be poured. There are all kinds of things where there would be chances of impurities getting into the water, and other things. It could go through a drain line, it could go through a stormwater drain, sewerage line. But if you see, if the policy or the local authority which is giving the water changes their perspective into such a manner that they start providing water and not waiting for people to apply for those connections. And by that I mean that if people keep if each individual or those 5 households start applying for water, it becomes like 32 steps they have to follow, and 32 steps into so many households. Into it takes a lot of time as well. But what if we've been trying to push this? What if BMC changes their perspective and starts giving water to the community, starts planning lines in such a fashion that each household gets their own line, and each line is then planned between these smaller sectors, smaller lanes, and things like that. But that is still a long journey to go. I'm actually not talking about much more about the struggles, because I am no person to, because although I come from a position where my house has been getting water for every day, and there's never been such an issue. But that's why I've also planned this small video so which we can see. We're talking more about the struggles. One was the household thing. The other is authorities. So even after COVID brought in different kind of challenge to these struggles itself. When water was 2000, after 2017 policy, 2019 is when it's we started realizing that slowly each of these communities are starting to get water. But so each community or each slum had their own struggles. But if we went to the BMC with this uh, fight that please change your policy or bring these kind of changes where you're not still saying that 5 households should get water together, or where you're saying that each household will get only. So if you see, the communities are so dense, and so many people live, or so many households exist, that by the time the last household gets the water in the pipe doesn't reach their household itself, because it has gone to much smaller than half an inch of pipe, which is of course not sufficient. And if water comes for half an hour in your community, that half an inch pipe will never fill whatever amount of water your daily use needs. The other interesting thing which I have also understood is that so NBC also says 135 to 180 liters per day per person needs to be planned. But for slums or informal settlements, it has been saying 45 liters per day per person. And I also tried to find how this 45-liter thing has come. Because if we are saying that water needs to be given equitably, water needs to be given inclusively, so each of the household needs to get same amount, each person needs to get same amount of water. And I found a reference of some United Nations commission of Kenya, where they said that 45 liters would be enough. And it's a 1970s thing. Do you still think that in 2024 people will need only 45 liters of water? So, I also try to understand why this 45 liters. One thing is the commission saying that, but how? So there's this assumption that households may not have toilets, so which means they don't need flushing. So that much amount of water. So from 135 BC, only giving 45 liters, the remaining amount is being used for flushing is the assumption. And that's the context in which they don't give water then in that. So then half an inch pipe and only 45 liters per day. How is a person who is living in an urban city like Mumbai will fulfill their needs of water? So World Water Day, today's theme is actually water for peace. And so water for peace, which means that there needs to be cooperation between agencies, governments, and other states, nations to understand that water is something, and negotiation for water is it is required and would be given to all. But are we still doing this distribution equally in our urban cities is something to think about. Lastly, I would also like to mention that when we're saying that the license plumber thing, the license plumber's role actually doesn't even is not even required in informal settlements, because here we are not planning for the kind of water requirement or the kind of network systems which are required for water. And these network systems, if we are not planning that, if a licensed plumber is not doing that, then what is the requirement of a licensed plumber in itself? That needs to be getting rid of. But then from the start, when the policy has come and it has been existing, and it has been a difficult journey to push that particular position itself, because currently they're working as agents for the department itself. So they make their work easier. They get those files from one table to another, and makes their job easier to just give a water connection, just give the application, or get done with the application. So I think that has been also a big struggle. The 32 to 35, when I'm saying that these files move to these many things, there is also this the thing where they're running both these online and offline things together. So people can also apply online, people can also apply offline. But in that whole thing, they've also been trying to say that कि अच्छा आपने offline file नहीं भरा दिया तो इसलिए आपका process नहीं है, online नहीं भरा अच्छा इसलिए आपका process नहीं है. So this has also been the way in which people are applying for applications have also been very based on the individual who is sitting at that table and deciding whose application gets selected. So this whole discussion of I think so World Water Day, the campaign has been able to get some wins, but there is still a very long journey to go. Please, so this is what I want to say, but there are also still very so many gaps, but that could be filled with your questions. So if you have any questions, if you have any discussions you want to do, it can be like a more interactive session. If anyone has a question. You can show the video. Yeah. So we'll just first see the video so that you will get more visual context to what I'm trying to talk about. A community member himself is telling about his struggles, and he got water. He has been fighting for water for 9 years, and finally got water in 2020 after COVID. So that's between COVID actually.
So when the setup is done for the video, we can take some questions if there are any questions. So as you said that if a person is not able to fill online form, then you have to fill online. So can't the person fill at the same time both the forms? So that's much of per day. Did you see most of the people working are on either daily wage or they're auto drivers or
to spend so much of their time, if they're following up and spending so much of their time in filling both these forms, online, offline, giving this to, and also following up where their form has reached, it's a huge amount of time, and this time for them is also monetary losses of their wages. So that's most important. If you see, if the government or if you shift this perspective that water is required for all, why would you want each individual to sit and keep filling form and seek water for themselves? We need to fill the form, right? So fine. So is there any other variations we can do for it? Have the water concept committee done for that? Right now, Pani has been helping out, but then if you see, there are 2 lakh people who are seeking water at this point in 54 different settlements. Imagine the kind of work, imagine the kind of support that needs to be given. Although water is a state subject, but municipalities are to give water to each one who is coming into the city or living into the city. So why not then the government becomes that channel? Okay, we give water to all, and it becomes like an easier process, faster than climate
मैं 12 साल का
change.
था
So better.
तो मेरे बाप जो थे ना बम्बई में आए थे एक बार पहले, तो फिर दोबारा से मेरे बाप आए तो मेरे को लेके आए थे कि चलो हम बम्बई जाएंगे। तो हम लोग बम्बई आ गए। आने के बाद में यहाँ पर हम लोग, मेरे बाप जो फ्रूट का धंधा करते थे और मजदूरी का काम पे मेरे को सिखाने लगा दिए थे। तो संडे वाले दिन हम लोग जो है ना मैच खेला करते थे बीच रोड के ऊपर संडे को। और आज संडे को क्या, संडे को हम लोग को रोड क्रॉस करने नहीं होता है। जब भीमनगर के अंदर पानी नहीं था तो बहुत बड़ी तकलीफ थी। अब ये पानी की नहीं, यहाँ पर हर चीज की तकलीफ थी कि आदमी जब रहता था ना तो उसको डर लगा रहता था कि हम लोग कैसे जिंदगी काटेंगे। यहाँ पर इतने मच्छर काटा करते थे, इतना अंधेरा हुआ करता था यहाँ पर। अगर आदमी बीमार भी हो जाता था तो उसको यहाँ से इतनी गाड़ी नहीं मिलती थी कि हम इसको हॉस्पिटल तक पहुंचा दें।
शहर जो है, ये शहर पूरे आस पड़ोस के ग्रामीण इलाकों का पानी लेता है और 3850 mld मिलियन लीटर पर डे ये इस्तेमाल करता है। अगर लोक संख्या के साथ में इसको देखा जाए, 1.5 करोड़ की आबादी है, उसके सामने रखा जाए तो 200 लीटर से भी ज्यादा, जहां पर जबकि यहाँ पर अपना राष्ट्रीय मानक है 135 लीटर हर व्यक्ति को प्रतिदिन मिलना चाहिए। तो ये तो 200 लीटर से ज्यादा पानी देने की क्षमता रखने वाला शहर है, उसके पास इतना पानी है। उसके बावजूद ये क्यों नहीं दे पा रहा है पानी? तो उसका क्लियर रीजन ये है कि ये भारतीय जो राजनीति है, ये राजनीति ही डिस्क्रिमिनेशन की राजनीति है। और इसलिए आज भी मुंबई शहर में 20 लाख लोग जो हैं उनको पानी नकारा गया है कि आपको नहीं देंगे पानी।
पानी इतना तकलीफ से हमें मिलता था। 4 गैलन एक साइकिल है जो साइकिल चलाने वाली रहती है, उसके ऊपर लटका के लेके आते थे। और यहाँ पर मट्टी इतनी थी, पत्थर थे उसके अंदर। और ये कीचड़ जब हो जाती थी बारिश में तो साइकिल को धक्का मार लेते थे तो ऐसा लगता था कि अंदर के जो अंदर जो आत रहती है ना, वो शायद मुंह से निकल जाए। तो हम लोग सोचे, तो हमने कि अभी यहाँ के लिए कुछ करना पड़ेगा करके। तो जगह जगह पे सब लोग मीटिंग करते थे और एक दिन बड़ी मीटिंग की है तो बोले पानी बस्तियों के अंदर होना चाहिए, शौचालय बस्तियों में चाहिए, लाइट बस्तियों में होना चाहिए। तो किस तरह से मिलेगी? तो हमारी कुछ समझ में आई। तो अगर मैंने सोचा कि हम लोग इनसे जुड़ जाएंगे तो हमारी कुछ ना कुछ हल हो सकता है।
पानी हक समिति क्या है? जिन बस्तियों में मुंबई म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन ने कहा कि हम यहाँ पानी नहीं देंगे, तो ऐसी जितनी भी बस्तियां हैं उसमें से तकरीबन 54 कम्युनिटीज के साथ में कम्युनिटीज के कार्यकर्ताओं ने इकट्ठा आकर और उनके साथ में काम करने वाले संगठनों, स्वयंसेवी संगठनों ने इकट्ठा आकर ये मंच बनाया, ये एक कलेक्टिव बनाया। इस कलेक्टिव को ताकत देने के लिए फिर जो सब्जेक्ट एक्सपर्ट्स हम जिसको कहते हैं, टेक्निकल एक्सपर्ट्स हम जिनको कहते हैं, उनको भी इसमें इनवाइट किया गया, आमंत्रित किया गया। और उसके साथ में ही एकेडमिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस जैसे टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट है और आईआईटी के कुछ साथी हैं, ये भी इसके साथ में जुड़े।
तो मैं क्या करता था, सेंटर में बुलाता था लोगों को या रोड के ऊपर बैठ के मीटिंग किया करता था। तो मैं उन लोगों को समझाता था, देखो ये पानी हमारी जो एक मूलभूत सुविधा जो है ना, तो ये हमको लेने के लिए बहुत लड़ना पड़ेगा। कोई चीज को लड़ना पड़ता है तो हमें ताकत अपनी बस्ती की लोगों की दिखाना पड़ती है। जब बस्ती के लोग ताकत दिखाएंगे जब भी हमको कोई चीज मिलेगी। तो लोगों की समझ में आई तो वो लोग बोलने लगे ठीक है, जहाँ कहाँ चलना है चलेंगे हम, हमें सिर्फ पानी चाहिए। अगर पानी मिल गया तो हमारी बहुत सी परेशानियां दूर हो जाएंगी। और लोग जब परेशान रहते हैं तो इंसान जाता ही है कहीं भी। और बस्तियों का सवाल तो पानी कैसे आएगा बस्ती के अंदर, वहां पर तो कटआउट जो है ना वो लगी हुई है।
जो हमारी फ्यूडल समझ है, ये फ्यूडल समझ हमारे पॉलिसी मेकर्स में और हमारे पॉलिटिशियंस में ठूस ठूस कर भरी हुई है। अगर आप देखेंगे तो ये कैसे काम करता है, तो ये है कि बाय पॉलिसी हम इस समझ के हिसाब से बाय पॉलिसी ही लोगों को पानी के हक से दूर कर देते हैं कि आप 95 के बाद में आए हो तो आपको पानी नहीं मिलेगा, आप 2000 के बाद में आए हो तो भी आपको पानी नहीं मिलेगा, आप सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के जमीन पे हो तो पानी नहीं मिलेगा, आप बेघर हो तो पानी नहीं मिलेगा, समुद्र के किनारे रहते हो तो नहीं मिलेगा। ये जो हमने खुद एक क्लियरली पॉलिसी बनाई कि हम इन लोगों को डिस्क्रिमिनेट करेंगे। पानी हक समिति जब जब भी गया, कई बस्तियों में लोगों ने हमारे ऊपर हंसे कि आप क्या पानी अधिकार की बात करते हो, हम तो इलीगल लोग हैं, हमको कैसे पानी मिल सकता है। तो आपने लोगों की मानसिकता को गुलामी में ढकल दिया है कि लोगों ने मान लिया कि वो गुलाम है, वो इलीगल है, उनका कोई हक नहीं है।
देखो पानी जो है ना, वो पानी किसी की फैक्ट्री में बनता नहीं, पानी किसी के जागीर से निकलता नहीं, किसी की जमीन से नहीं निकलता, कोई पैदावार ही नहीं करता, तो ये तो ऊपर वाले की देन है। तो ये हमारे हक का पानी है। दूसरी चीज है कि जो बड़े बड़े लोग हैं, जो पैसे वाले लोग हैं, इनको पानी मिल जाता है और ये हमसे ज्यादा भी पैसा नहीं दे पाते कि हम उनसे ज्यादा पैसा देके पानी पीते हैं।
लोग तो बिना पानी के जी नहीं सकते, तो इनफॉर्मल वाटर कनेक्शंस तो आप उनको देते हो। जहां फॉर्मल वाटर कनेक्शंस वाले कोई साथी जो है वो 1000 लीटर के लिए 5 रुपया पे करते हैं, वहीं पर इनफॉर्मल वाटर कनेक्शन के लिए 500 से 700 रुपया पे करना पड़ता है उतने ही पानी के लिए, जो उनके आमदनी के 20 या 25% का रकम है जो आपको सिर्फ पानी के लिए खर्च करना है। तो आप फिनेंशियली एक्सप्लॉइट कर रहे हो उनको। उसके बाद में आप उनको कहते हो कि आप हमको चुन के दे दो, हम अगली बार पानी लेके आएंगे। तो ये वोट बैंक करके उनका इस्तेमाल करना, उनको एक गुलाम मानसिकता में ढकेलना, ये यहाँ के पॉलिटिक्स का जरूरत है। और वो जरूरत की वजह से ही, ये पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ एक्सक्लूजन की वजह से ही आज मुंबई में 20 लाख लोगों के पास पानी नहीं है।
जब हम पानी लेने जाया करते थे दूसरे के पास में, तो वो लोग हमको किस तरह से बात किया करते थे, हमें धिक्कार देते थे, हमें भगा देते थे, हमारे पास पानी नहीं। मगर आज हमारी बस्ती के अंदर पानी हक समिति के जरिए से और सीताराम भाई के जरिए से और जितने पानी हक समिति कार्यकर्ताओं के जरिए से और लोगों ने जितने में सपोर्ट किया उनके जरिए से आज हम इज्जत का पानी और अपने हक का पानी पी रहे हैं। मुद्दे बहुत से हैं, मगर उन मुद्दों से इसी तरह से जैसे कि पानी हक समिति ने कटआउट डेट को तोड़ा है, तो हर मुद्दे के अंदर, हर जगह घर के अंदर इसी को कटआउट डेट को ही तोड़ा जाए, जो बाबा अम्बेडकर के कानून को, जो संविधान है उसको रोकता है, तो वो चीज खत्म करी जाए। और इसी तरह से हर किसी इंसान को लड़ना चाहिए। और जितने भी NGO हैं, जितनी भी संस्था हैं, सबको एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे आना चाहिए, और जब एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे आएंगे तो ही हम लोग को कुछ जीत मिलती है। मगर क्या है कि हम भी कभी कभी नेताओं की तरह बढ़ जाते हैं, और वो बढ़ना नहीं कि एक साथ में सब मिलके आ जाएंगे तो हम कुछ ना कुछ जीत हासिल कर सकते हैं और जीत सकते हैं।
So all thanks to Amin and Pani and Samiti and Sitaram Shelaji and Abrar Bhai for bringing his story forward. But please feel free to, we will move on to the discussion part again. So yeah, please ask questions if you have.
Hi. There is a term called water mafia. So when you give legalized water connections, have you encountered this legal mafia in one way? I have two questions. And the second one is even I forgot the name of the person, Abraham. He also said that getting NGOs, getting the municipality, getting the communities, and the other factors as well on one platform. Have there been no thought about water conservation or rainwater, where you don't have to beg to municipality for for your cup of water?
So right now, if you see, how can we go towards conservation if we are not getting water in the first place? Because we can talk about conservation if we are getting water and then we are wasting it. But if we are still struggling and paying more than what a normal individual is paying, so 5 rupees to 6 rupees per 1,000 liters, and if you don't have a legal connection, you are paying 700 to 1,000 rupees for the same amount of water. So that's like a big financial this thing in itself. So bringing already this idea of conservation, it's not that they're not talking about it. It's not that they don't know it. But then the struggle is more the water for us is coming, but then we're not giving us that water is one of the major things. I'm talking about water mafia. It's not that water mafia is not there, because before settlements have got water legally, or water comes to them legally, there exists this whole network of people who are giving water. And those are the people who are selling this water per gallon for 35 to 40 rupees and making money out of it. But that was like the only source at the time available, and people had no option but to do it. So if you see, Abrar Bhai has been talking about water with dignity. And that's what he's been seeking. So water here then also is gives you dignity, gives you more respect in your community, in the places where you work, the places where you live. Interestingly, Abrar Bhai also wants this water. So water was the first thing which came to him. After that, he got into the struggle of getting street lights and getting drains and things like that. So this water also became like a thing like which started bringing more resources into the community and making it more livable in that sense.
So firstly, the question or so what would be the issue will be, so let's say the density if you consider, so let's say in 100 square meter, if it is a high rise, so there will be let's say around 50 to 100 residents maybe. And in the informal settlement, in the similar area, if there are let's say 2,000 people are staying. So if we are saying कि we are providing water, and let's say if we as per the regulation कि हम लोग we are given the connection, but as you mentioned कि till the last house, let's say, because if you provide water also, then also only let's say the 500 or 600 people till a sufficient water is only what the BMC or they can provide as let's say without taxes or so that was one concern ki how we can categorize ki if this much density is here in let's say in what the majority of the slum population, there in 1 kilometer of radius there are more than 1 lakh people are staying. So how the idea of density which we can consider while providing what on board basis we can say कि सारे लोगों को देना चाहिए कि then उसमें भी there could be a bifurcation कि okay we can't like 1 lakh people के लिए it's not lay that much infrastructure is not possible or it's not be feasible in that area maybe. And secondly, the kind of informal settlements which are upcoming, let's say. So there is at any site there is some kind of pattern which we can observe. Let's say from 1996 some settlements started coming. So if the government recognizes that okay in these areas the settlements are coming, then rather than after growing all the settlements and then putting the infrastructure, why can't they basically at start only if they are saying okay यहाँ पे informal settlement आ रहा है, there could be a projection of growth. So accordingly, पहले से if they can lead like a water system or water infrastructure, which will be more feasible rather than after the growth or after the haphazard growth, then again introducing the infrastructure and then it's saying कि अभी हर घर में नहीं पहुंच रहा है क्योंकि because while laying down the infrastructure also there are some kind of households will get dislocated and that's
So I think so for the first question.
you can make it.
Interesting thing is that I will just give you an example of Cheetah Camp. So Cheetah Camp is a rehabilitation colony which came in the 1970s. That time BMC planned giving infrastructure also to them with letting them build because they were rehabilitated by them itself. Well, at that point also they didn't give water to each of the household. They gave one standpoint post connection to one sector in a corner of the sector, which means that at that moment also they didn't think about planning. So why will they think about it like right now that way? Because they don't want informal settlements to be there in the first place. So the recognition in the first place becomes like a thing in itself. So they will not, of course, have a plan that way.
That should have been like an improvisation in the planning stage only. So if we improvise stuff in planning stage, so आगे का जो भी crisis which we are in facing, it can be like let's say reduced.
Yeah, but that their mindset should be कि हमको देना है. It starts with that.
No, I think I'll ask question later, but I think what you're talking is something I'm think someone actually. It says generally city has housing. In India, it is housing has city. Because housing comes first and then we talk about city. So that whole planning paradigm has to really reverse and from more projective than incident. Now my question is that yes, we all know about the crisis. Can you give any good practice of any municipality anywhere in Indian cities? I mean, I don't know honestly. So
right now, although I just recently visited Odisha. Odisha have been doing like these Jal Sathis where Jal Sathis go identify this household doesn't have water, and then they're impromptu and on the same day they're trying to give water connection. So that's the kind of thing Odisha, but that way their whole political and the bureaucratical thing is a very different scenario. Their state wants to give all these services, but here because the BMC budget is same as the state budget there, so it makes like a vast difference.
So nowadays, BMC has started sprinkling water on the roads. I don't know if it is drinkable or non-drinkable. So the motive is to control dust pollution. But is it really working or we are just wasting water? What are your views?
So for me, it would be just wasting water, but they're using that as a mechanism. But I hope they're using treated water for that because they've been also pushing gardening related purposes to be using that treated water and not using drinkable potable water for these kinds of purposes. So I hope it's that water. Because they have an excess of that and they have no where to put that water, treated water is one of the questions they're right now dealing with. They they're asking if you can take that potable water, whichever they have treated. So that's one more. But if you see that also from the water treatment plants are at the sewage water treatment plants are in some other ward, and then they have to bring it to these wards. So transporting that amount of water is a challenge for them.
Can you just elaborate on that null committee? How do they come together?
So, in the first thing, people are not aware that they have to form a null committee in itself. So, Pani Samiti has been every time they go into a new settlement, they have to spread this awareness. You have to form this null committee in the households surrounding to your area. So, 5 to 7 households, whatever they're there in the same lane or in front of each other, they select that particular households, and then say that each of this null committee each of this household has to submit their own identity and address proof, and that's how they get established. So they get registered with the application formation or application of the BMC. So not that they exist in or have any kind of a registry in themselves. The only registration is the application with BMC of water. That's all.
But they have to be in the same locality.
They have to be in the same portion of the slum as well. So in the same lane, maybe in the
or the same nagar.
Or the same nagar also. But then when the GE comes to visit, he has to see that all houses are in high distance of. So even if you skip 1 or 2 houses in between, but they have to be like a closest 5 segment.
I have another thing. This is something dated back in 2010 when we were doing a study in Kalvareli area. We had got a document, a map, okay, that had marked all wells, okay, and small ponds and areas. And this PWD got mapping. And very interesting the map was. I mean, the way the morphology of the city was based on where the location of these wells and ponds were. Okay, today our city is we are developing the way we find land, equitable land. So is there now a mapping by the BMC to understand? Because I also know, because it's one other sub question to this, because the tankers are filling water from these wells. Okay, so how is that? So first, is there a map like this? Does the BMC municipality have maps or ward level maps where these wells are located? Because today in Juhu also there are some of these wells. In Parla, there are some of these wells, and these wells are given or auctioned out to these water tankers where they take water, and that is the water that has been distributed. So, have you ever come across? I mean, definitely you might have come across to this study, which is also the watermark here. What Nina was asking.
So, I've not come across a map, but I know they kind of exist because they also use those maps for when they're preparing the flood preparedness program of theirs, because they're then mapping all of these areas where sources can be, where flood prone areas are and things like that. So they have this mapping, but I'm not sure if that exists at ward level or they have it at ward level. They may have it at the central level.
Yeah, any other questions? I just have one comment. All said and done, it's a looming crisis. We have to gear ourselves up for this, some way or the other. Is there any kind of short promo material or a reel or something which kind of encaptures the students' interest? We're talking about the younger generation now pulling up their socks to this problem. Is there something like that which you have, which you can share? And we kind of create this kind of awareness, like that 20-second COVID video, right? That we used to have. You sing a happy birthday song, and this is what you do. Is there something like that which they can use in our everyday lives, where we really get into saving every little drop of water that we have?
I'll have to check that. I don't have it in mind right now.
Yeah, if I have, I will share.
I had actually a question about the
you work a lot with DMC engineers and lots of plumbers, and a lot of them probably live in the same kinds of settlements that are kind of fighting for water, right? It's a very sort of personal question, perhaps a vague question. Do you find that they think of themselves as part of the machinery? And if they see themselves as part of the machinery, are they able to see that the machinery is the one that is also the same that is denying them water?
Not in all cases. I know someone who was part of the team who was bulldozing settlements, and he also at some point had to bulldoze his own. So he then dropped off working for the local authority and then started getting into the struggle. So that's. But then I am not very aware of any officer doing that, because they are part of the machinery, and that's how their household works or gets money, and that's how they're working. Yeah.
Any other questions? And thank you so much for this enlightening and invigorating and engaging conversation on a World Water Day. It was really nice to understand the techniques and the way the municipality performs and the kind of informal settlements pain they have to go through. Thank you so much once again.